payments for birth control or morning after pills. Planned Parenthood and other pro-Obamacare groups are backing up the White House, surprise, surprise, in the courts fight and on the political front as well. Planned Parenthood last week started running ads against Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, accusing him of siding with employers who want to control women's access to contraceptives. Even if the courts rule against the contraceptive requirement, it's not likely the birth control policy would be eliminated entirely, but it would be curtailed, according to the legal experts. Now, my real question here is, why would Planned Parenthood be so on board with this, considering that half of their business is providing abortions? They get more than their fair share of taxpayer dollars to fund all their activities, and they already provide low-cost contraceptives in the forms of rather cheap prophylactics. They provide, in many of their locations, abortion services after, of course, counseling these poor, poor women. On the other side of the issue, and I really think this is part of why Obama's really trying to push the courts into making a decision now, we have circulating through both the House and the Senate the Life at Conception Act. This is being pushed by a couple of different groups of pro-life organizations, one of which I happen to be a member of, but I'm going to name them specifically at the moment. The big news is that Senator Rand Paul has now officially become a co-sponsor of the Life at Contraceptive Act. This bill would grant 14th Amendment protections to unborn babies, effectively ending the on-demand abortions in the U.S. It would be a full use of the legal out that the Supreme Court gave the judiciary and gave the legislative branch back when it decided Roe v. Wade. This would invalidate Roe v. Wade and would eliminate, because there is no constitutional grounds to find it unconstitutional, it would initially end abortion on demand, period. That does not end abortions in all facets. Of course, there are several more left-leaning thinkers that believe that that would just bring us to a return to the back alley abortion days. And unfortunately, as long as somebody thinks they can make some money, some disgraced doctor or former medical professional, some nurse practitioner, they probably would be willing to degrade their profession and sink low enough to do exactly that. Because there are always going to be scared young people who've made a mistake. Part of what we have to do, ladies and gentlemen, as Americans and as caring Christian souls who want to protect our nation as a whole, and as much of the innocence of our children as we can, is we have to make sure that we fully educate our children on the risks, and we have to make sure that they feel like they have alternatives. And heaven help you if you think Planned Parenthood is a reasonable place to send your child if you're looking for alternatives, because they have essentially become an abortion meal for all intents and purposes. Now, and again, it sounds like I'm way just downing everything. Not everybody who works for Planned Parenthood feels that way. Not everybody who works for Planned Parenthood pushes the abortions. But there are certain areas in the country where Planned Parenthood, that's what they start pushing the minute you walk in the door. There are good people and well-intended people that work for all of these organizations. The ACLU started with the premise that there are people out here who need legal aid who can't afford it and who won't get it otherwise. Planned Parenthood started with the whole concept of let's bring children into the world in the best possible circumstance. These are admirable goals, but the mission has been skewed in the interest of political power, political influence, and getting taxpayer dollars to help pay for what they do. I applaud Rand Paul for joining this fight, and personally, I would love to see the Conception at Life, the Life at Conception Act passed into law. Now, on another topic, I wanted to get into this before the end of the show. It is, at this point, not that big of a deal, but it is a heads up. I don't know if any of you remember a few broadcasts back when I posed the question that now that women are officially recognized as combat proficient and ready to go to the front lines, if that would mean that at some point in time we would see women, once they reach the age of 18, have to sign up for a civil service. Seems like the groundwork now is being laid for exactly that. If you want to look it up, it is H.R. 748. It's a bill that's proposed to, quote, to require all persons in the United States between the ages of 18 and 25 to perform national service, either as a member of the uniformed services or as a civilian service in a federal, state, or local government program, or with a community-based agency or community-based entity to authorize the induction of persons in the uniformed services during wartime to meet end-strength requirements of the uniformed services, to provide for the registration of women under the Military Selective Service Act, and for other purposes. This was introduced on the 15th. Referred to the House Committee on Armed Services. Guess who introduced it? Why, none other than Representative good old Charlie Rangel from New York. Yes, that's right. For any of you who don't know Charlie, he is a Democrat. Not that you see too many other folks elected at the federal level from New York. Anyway, as of the 25th, that would be today, ladies and gentlemen, the summary for H.R. 748 is, as I already read, to require all persons in the United States between the ages of 18 and 25 to perform national service. Now, what does this really mean? It means that women would then be required to sign up for Selective Service Act or face penalties under law. Now, is this a bad thing? Well, not necessarily, but what concerns me is it does force these women who would never have dreamed of serving in an active military engagement now will be just as susceptible to a draft should one ever be reinstituted as every man 18 to 25 would be. Men are better equipped to have to deal with the stress of being impressed into military action if it wasn't something that they sought for. And I have nothing against women who want to serving. I'm fairly open-minded about that. If they can go out and prove on the same standards that they can get the job done, more power to them. I am not sexist in this matter. But I don't believe that women that have no interest in serving should be forced into that situation. I have daughters. Don't have a son. I have daughters. I have 4 daughters and a stepdaughter. I live in the sea, in the ocean of estrogen. I have a little break from it. But I love my daughters. All of them. And I would not want to see them being pushed into active duty service if the draft was to be reinstituted due to some emergency down the road. And the way they're looking to decimate our military through sequester cuts, or who knows what other cut may be part of whatever deal, if one is reached, happens to be. For any of you who want to take a look at it, at the website beta.congress.gov/bill/House-bill/748. That's the website, has specifically this particular bill that has been introduced and referred to the House Committee on Armed Services. That's the first step, ladies and gentlemen, on anything becoming a law in this country. Doubt that you're going to see this being reported in too many places. So please check it out for yourself. Go to the website. Post it. Post it on any message boards that you're a part of. Post it on any social media group that you're a part of. Let everybody you know about this, because the more of us who know, the more we can come to a consensus and decide, is this something we really want for our daughters? Most of us don't want draft for our sons. Do we want to expose our daughters to the risk of being drafted as well? Because that's what this bill does. The door has been opened. Pandora's box has been opened. Can we close it back in time to squish that last little thing that would take away all hope? In this particular case, I hope so. This is something that I don't want to see my children have to grow up under, given the fact that I see our military being made weaker by an administration that seems to think that Israel's our enemy and that the Muslim Brotherhood is an ally. Because, ladies and gentlemen, for most Americans, the Muslim Brotherhood is not an ally. Turning our backs on Israel is dangerous. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to remind you, don't take my word for it. Please, please, please don't take their word for it. Take some time. Do a little research. Think for yourself. Use your brain. And decide. If you get all the information and you see both sides of it and you get the opportunity for it to all to come together, it'll be a lot harder for them to treat you like part of the sheeple that they think we all are. Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. Use your brain. That's tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us here on Tap Into the Truth. And please come back again, and we'll be back soon. Good night, everybody.